Hey y'all, Carolina Tony here. Today the road brings us to the very cold streets, 25 degrees, of Fort Sumner, New Mexico. We are here at the Billy the Kid Museum. Fort Sumner is the place where Billy the Kid was killed, and we are here to go into the museum and learn a little bit about Billy the Kid, and also to visit his grave. And we'll get started right after this station identification. We are in the Billy the Kid Museum, and this is the photograph that everyone sees of Billy the Kid. This is it. We are in Fort Sumner, New Mexico. This was an army post. It was named for General Edwin V. Sumner. It was established in 1862. 6 companies of soldiers stationed here were given the detail of keeping peace with the marauding Indians. It was an impossible assignment. The fort was abandoned in 1889. Here is the post office. This is a picture of Lucien Maxwell, who was painted in his work clothes. Lucien Maxwell, he was the largest landholder in the United States. He purchased the buildings at Old Fort in 1870 for $5,000 and established a ranch. He died at Fort Sumner on July 25th, 1875, and was buried in the military cemetery, near the site of the old fort. After his death, his son Pete Maxwell took over the management of the cattle ranching. It was Pete Maxwell's house that Billy the Kid was killed in July of 1881. William H. Bonney was born in New York City in 1859. He moved with his family to Kansas, where his father died. His mother then married a man named William Antrim. The wedding took place in Santa Fe, New Mexico, March 1st, 1873. Then they moved to Silver City, New Mexico. Billy's mother died on September 16th, 1874, of tuberculosis. Billy started his career in crime at the age of 15 when he was arrested for stealing a bundle of laundry. Billy was put in jail for the crime but escaped and left Silver City. The first man that Billy killed was a blacksmith by the name of Cahill. This took place at about 2 years after Billy's mother died. Billy then came back to New Mexico, where he was the primary figure in the Lincoln County War. Billy continued his career in crime and was finally captured by Sheriff Pat Garrett at the age of 21 and sentenced to be hung in jail and came to Fort Sumner. Sheriff Garrett trailed Billy to Pete Maxwell's house at Fort Sumner, where he was killed in July of 1881. This photograph is of 2 men. Their grandfathers were pallbearers for Billy the Kid in 1861. And if you notice, all the pictures that we see of Billy the Kid are basically the same stance, paintings, all the same. And there's a lot of debate out as are the other photographs or of Billy the Kid.
This is Billy and his pals. On the left is Charlie Baudelaire, in the center is Billy the Kid, and on the right is Tom O'Fallard. They're all buried side by side in the old Fort Sumter Military Cemetery.
This photograph here, this is the latest photograph that has surfaced of Billy the Kid and his friends. This photograph was owned by Randy Cheraw. I can't pronounce his name, but here's the actual photograph, or a copy of the photograph. Here's blown up. But yeah, this is the one that they believe is Billy the Kid, and that was his friend that was killed with him, Tom. This is a painting where Billy's friend, Tom O'Follard, was killed. And there's a photograph of Billy the Kid's captured. Billy the Kid and his friends were captured by Pat Garrett and his posse on a cold day on December 23rd, 1880. After an all-day battle at the abandoned stone house near Stinking Springs, Charles Baldry was killed that day, and they were taken to the Fort Sumner jail. And a painting of friends that attended Billy the Kid's funeral. This is the saddle that belonged to Jesus Silva. He was a friend of Billy the Kid's, and also he was a pallbearer at Billy's funeral.
It's like a little table. It's like I like that one better.
Yeah.
Supposedly this is Billy the Kid.
Yeah. And Pat Garrett.
Pat Garrett
is over here.
Over there.
This is the only known photograph that exists of both Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. There's a copy of a tintype.
So I don't know who a Dave Rudabaugh.
This is the door that was in the house that Billy the Kid was killed in. However, those bullet holes, they are not related to the killing of Billy the Kid. This is a rock that was brought from Stinking Springs, one of Billy the Kid's hideouts, and this is where he had carved his name in the rock. Billy the Kid's actual .44 caliber 1873 Winchester. He gave this rifle, Billy the Kid gave this rifle to Caldron Trujillo 2 months before he was shot by Pat Garrett in the bedroom of the Pete Maxwell home. This is the piece of the curtain that hung over the door where Billy the Kid was killed. And this one here also, this hung over a window.
This is one of 27 original reward posters for Billy the Kid. Notice they misspelled the last name, Bonnie. They left out the E.
A photograph of Lew Wallace. Due to the lawlessness in Lincoln and Colfax counties, President Rutherford B. Hayes promptly removed Governor Samuel B. Axtell from office. In September of 1878, the President appointed Lew Wallace to the office of Governor of New Mexico Territory. Already famous for his military roles in both the war with Mexico and the Civil War, Wallace became even more famous for his novel, Ben-Hur, part of which he wrote while living in the governor's palace as Santa Fe.
Okay, these chaps and spurs were worn by Billy the Kid. He was working on a ranch close to Lincoln when he found two men altering the brands on the ranch cattle. Billy shot one and the other one got away. Billy took these chaps and spurs off the man and kept them for himself. The chaps are Angora. The spurs are ironed with sterling silver onlay, and card sweeps are imprinted on the silver. Billy wore these to dances.
A book that Pat Garrett wrote, The Authentic Life of Billy the Kid, and lots of other books that have been written about Billy the Kid. Those spurs are said to be one of 7 pair that were made for Pancho Villa. This clay figure was found in a cave near Silver City, New Mexico. According to Indian legend, the talking fish, porpoise, turned itself into a dog, grew wings, but could not fly. Perhaps this legend applies to this clay figure. This is a toy cap gun collection. Do you see any cap guns in there that you might have owned? I will tell you, I have had many. All that out there, that is where the old Fort Sumner was. It's pretty much well gone now. Was swept away in a flood, but Fort Sumner sat on 1,000,000 acres of land. Also, they brought Indians here to be interned. All this land is part of where Fort Sumner was. Over 1,000,000 acres Fort Sumner was located on, and on this fort was a house that Billy the Kid was killed in. There's a remnants of some of the fort there. It was washed away in the late 1800s, and the town of Fort Sumner was moved about 5 miles uphill. This is a picture of the officers' quarters that were built on the west side of the parade ground after the abandonment of the fort in 1869. The site was purchased by Lewis M. Maxwell, a New Mexico cattle baron. Maxwell built one of the quarters into a 20-room house, pictured here. Is it in 1883? It was in this house on July the 14th of 1881 that Sheriff Pat Garrett six gun put an end to the career of Billy the Kid. So it was right in this area here that this house was. It took some tracking to find it, but I'm standing on the very spot that Billy the Kid was killed. Now, how cool is that? So the house stood right where I'm standing now, and it is in this very spot that Henry McCarty, also known as William H. Bonney, also known as Billy the Kid, died here, this very spot. Yeah.
This is Billy the Kid's elusive tombstone. Billy the Kid's tombstone was stolen in 1951. Its location was a mystery for 26 years until 1976, when it was recovered in Granbury, Texas by Joe Boland. The tombstone was stolen again on February 8, 1981, and recovered 4 days later in Huntington Beach, California. Governor Bruce King arranged for Dabaca County Sheriff Big Jim McBride to fly to Los Angeles to retrieve the marker. Chamber officials, along with Jarvis P. Garrett, officially reset the tombstone in iron shackles at Billy's feet on May 30th, 1981.
Here on the far side, that is Billy the Kid, or William Bonney's grave, and his two friends are buried next to him. Tom O'Folliard was the best friend of William Bonney, Billy the Kid. Both men were members of the Regulators during the Lincoln County War. O'Folliard was shot in the shoulder during the famous 5-day battle in Lincoln. After the war ended, they spent the next 2 years rustling cattle before forming Bonney's gang with fellow outlaws Charlie Baudelaire and Tom Pickett. He was shot in the chest by Sheriff Pat Garrett on December 19, 1880 at Fort Sumner, New Mexico, dying approximately 45 minutes later. Charlie Bowdry, unlucky friend of Billy the Kid, he was born in 1848 and died in 1880. Charlie Bowdry fought alongside Billy the Kid in the Lincoln County War. After losing the war, both he and the Kid retreated to Fort Sumner, New Mexico, where Bowdry worked as a cowboy and was also suspect in Billy's outlaw's endeavors. In December 1880, the gang encountered Sheriff Pat Garrett. A gunfight ensued. Garrett killed gang member Tom O'Folliard. An escape was made, and refuge was found in an abandoned farmhouse in Stinking Springs, New Mexico. It was there on December 23rd, 1880, during a shootout that Baldry was killed by a member of Garrett's 20-man posse. Later that day, Billy surrendered and was escorted to jail, unleashing a series of noteworthy events which would conclude with his death on the 14th of July, 1881. Here is the grave of Joe Gant, shot January the 10th, 1880 by W.M. Bonney. Texas Red Grant died January the 10th, 1880. It is said that while drunk one night, Grant had the misfortune of getting on the wrong side of Billy the Kid at Beaver Smith's Saloon at Fort Sumner, New Mexico. After a heated discussion, Grant bet Billy $25 that he would kill a man first. Billy feigned false admiration for Grant's gun and asked to examine it. While doing so, Billy rotated the cylinder to an empty chamber. Anticipating trouble, Billy and Grant eventually got into an argument, and as Billy turned to walk away, Grant tried to shoot Billy in the back. But all what was heard was a click when Billy turned and drew, firing 3 shots, killing Grant instantly. Well, that is going to do it for our trip to Fort Sumner, New Mexico, to learn about Billy the Kid. And we'll end the video here at his grave. It was a very learning experience, would you say?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it's very cold. It's in the 20s. It's in the
cold.
20s out here, so we're going to make this short. We hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope you got a lot from it. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give us a big old thumbs up. Be sure to share with your family and friends. But until next time.
Y'all have a good day.
That's what she said.